got a good group going, and I feel like we're at a good place to start. And in the spirit of getting to the point, I have a bit of an outline here for what I expect us to talk about and discuss tonight. And it's like, and I'll share. If you can see, I'm sharing my screen. I'm sharing both the outline, but also we'll be doing some stuff over here in Coordinate, and I have a little survey for us later. So first, where are we? What still needs to be decided? The retroactive round, the first retroactive round covering all of 2023 has begun, is still in full swing. And in fact, most people have voted. So I believe everybody can see this view, but if you look at the members, you can see who has and has not voted. So a little bit of shame to Alex and Andres for not having voted, although I know that they were going to wait until they saw levels of participation. Anne has not voted, Carlos has not voted, but John, Jose, Kim, Luciano, Mike, all voted. So we're still waiting on these people to vote, but I mean, who knows if they ultimately will. Either way, you can start to see the distribution of who has gotten various amounts up until this point, right? And so this is covering the pre-foundation era, and you can see it mapped out here, including with contributions, who's given to who, so on and so forth, with a little bit of weighting in the thickness of the band. But anyway, that's going well. At the end of this call, we can answer any lingering questions that people have about the round, about people's contributions to the round, if they're still wondering how to value other people's contributions, and we can go through all of that. But that seems fine. Also, the second round has opened. So I have, if you see here, I've opened round 2. I've sent out the invitation to Laura Lee, Nina, Garo, and if you guys have any more ideas for who should be included, I can give you the sharing link, and you can send it directly to them. But basically, anybody who was around for the January 27th to May 30th period, again, we'll sort of come back to this because we need to set up a Kumbaya session where we sort of reminisce about what was going on during that period, what we were all doing during that period. And because I think we had set it up for last Friday, but then I at least forgot, and I think everybody else might have as well. But maybe for this Friday, next Monday. But this round is going to be running from now it's open from now until June 3rd, which is not next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after. And so I set it up like that so that we can close it post this meeting 2 weeks from now. Jose says, good morning, guys. How do I know who has voted and how many tokens each team member has received? I'm not seeing your screen, though. Yeah, it could be. I mean, it should be under members. Maybe it's limited by whether or not you're an admin. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the wrong circle. Maybe it's limited by whether or not you're an admin, but you should be able to at least see the map. But all this data is theoretically public. So you can see it here on my screen if you want to take a look at it. Okay. Well, then maybe we'll have to think about how to make that a little bit more transparent. Because we can export reports on these sorts of things, but either way, that's it. And when it closes, I'll certainly export a report so we can all see. I don't know if it breaks down individual votes, but we can also do that theoretically. So we've talked a little bit about this. The next thing that I want to talk about is deciding on what we think the teams. So I guess, well, hold on. I'll pause here and just ask for any comments or questions that people have about this right now. And then after that, we can dive into what we need to decide going forward.
Please refresh my memory. The very first epoch that we voted on, which is ending January 27th.
Yes.
What are we calling that?
We're calling this the number 1 pre-foundation all of 2023 circle.
Okay. That's pre-foundation. Pre-Hamza is after January 27th.
Early foundation is after January 27th. So that's basically the way I'm demarcating it is incorporation, like Panama Foundation, right? Pre-existence of Panama Foundation, post-existence of Panama Foundation.
So I have something called pre-Hamza, and then I'm not sure what period it is.
So that may be the old old Hamza organization. So again, once we left this Hamza organization up, and the pre-Hamza circle. I understand it's confusing. We left it up because we wanted people to be able to see what they had written and what they had contributed in the last round where we ran this, but we moved to just a new organization. And so that organization is Hamza Labs Limited as opposed to Hamza. And then, you should see the circles. Or you should at least see 2 circles now, I think. Because we haven't decided what other circles need to exist. Okay. So to that point, so all of this is covering the period, again, that sort of pre-Hamza period, the pre-foundation period, and then the early foundation period, which takes us up to May 30th in about 9 days. And I'll wait for Luciano's typing.
Well, this is maybe while Luciano is typing. For example, I received the invitation for coordinating today, but you showed earlier that most part of the people or some part of the team distributed all their tokens already.
So those are 2 different circles. So I gave you an invite. See, so you are like, this one has started, but you'll notice nobody has distributed anything in this circle yet. So this is
Also, the one that the points the token are distributed already is the Tokenomics one, right?
No. The one that is distributed already is and again, that's most people have distributed already is the pre-foundation. So this is, again, covering the period up until January 27th of this year. And then once the foundation actually existed, that's early foundation. And that's the circle that you are now a part of.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Well, I don't see that you've joined, but but that you have an invite link to. Okay.
There are 2 Lucianos there. I think one of you can delete, please.
I did.
Yeah. I added. I joined with different wallet, and then this happened.
No, I figured. So I saw that I had added both to this circle, and then I went back to see which wallet had voted in the first round, and so now, just Luciano Dreamer, not Luciano.Dreamer. So I joined this one, but I deleted this one from the circle.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so we've got everything covered there. Then the thing that we really need to talk about is, so that is covering those 2 sort of early periods. And at the end of this meeting, we'll maybe walk through some voting and show what it looks like in the pre-Hamza vote. And again, answer any questions about that. But now let's shift our focus to what happens on June 1st, right? Which is ideally when we'll start a current round that will be running in 1 month installments. Instead of having to think about what we did and retroactively award people for what they've done, instead we'll just be reporting in real time what we're doing to the teams that we're contributing to, and then getting the live distributions of the tokens that are allocated to each team. And so in order for us to do that, we need to decide 2 things. First, we need to decide what are the teams, and then we need to decide what are the relative distributions to each of those teams. And so I'll start by putting forward a bit of a proposal. So I made this survey, and I'll distribute the survey to everybody in this call. And basically it's these are the 5 teams as I think they should be. I think that we should have an engineering team, a biz dev team, an accounting team, and a legal team. The reason these 1-person teams I think should exist is because they're not well represented in either of these larger teams, and their work often goes unnoticed, especially if they're doing that work well. And so I think that they should be given a specific, and again, they're 1-person teams right now. We expect them to grow, and we can augment what percentage allocation we think that those teams should get. And then there is just the governance work that is done. I don't think we should highly value it, but it is work that is being done, and I think people's contribution to it should be rewarded. So this is how I would divide the teams. And now I'll just shut up for a minute. And does anybody think that this is wrong, that we shouldn't do it this way? Should we collapse it? Should we expand it? Are there teams I'm not seeing that we need to account for? Do people have questions? But the floor is open.
Is there a lead for each team?
Is there a what?
A lead? or do we just consider this kind of a target?
I mean, like, I assume there will be. I think that goes more to, like, some things we need to establish in the governance call, which would be, like, how do we establish work streams? So, like, when we establish budgets, I think that budget should include a team lead or even, like, a team council, right? So, like, if we're saying that but I don't know that it matters for this, like, token distribution part. Right.
No, that's fine. No, I guess it was more in the lines of if everybody feels that they can relate to one or more buckets, then I think we got alignment.
Maybe define governance more. I mean, there's some overlap, I think, in governance between biz dev engineering, in my mind at least. But maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. I mean, I think governance touches on everything, right? Governance is like sort of it's the thing that makes decisions about, like, how much should we budget to engineering, how much should we budget to biz dev, who should be in charge of this, that, or the other thing, what is our long-term, like, strategic goals, right? And so yeah, there's like a little bit of overlap, I think, in probably all of the teams. And everybody who's doing governance will be doing other things as well, right? Like, everybody who's in the governance team will also be in one or more of the other teams. But yeah, to me, it's just like the action of, like, doing governance and management is distinct from doing something like marketing or doing something like writing code or even, like, doing, like, software architecture.
Bo, have you thought about a mechanism for changing team configuration and distribution in the future going forward?
Yeah, so I think that, and the way that I'm conceptualizing it right now is that, like, what I think we should do is, once we settle on the number of teams, then we create this survey, or, like, I distribute this survey, and we take people's opinions on what percentage should go to each team, right? I think then the governance, the like, partners should also do this, and then we should, like, put forward a proposal and codify the percentages as they go forward. But I think that those percentages should cover a period of time. So, like, ideally, it's like we need to figure out how to set this system in motion, but it should be like there is a proposal type to change, to, like, add a team, to add a work stream, for instance, or to remove a work stream. There should be a proposal type to change the percentage allocation distribution. And the assumption would be that in, like, 3-month epochs, if there is no proposal to change things, then things continue with the status quo. But, like, a governance action to change things is possible. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm trying to, another thing that I'm working on this, I like quarters, personally. 6 months is possible as well, but, like, I think quarterly reviews make more sense. And just, yeah, like, for better oversight and more accountability. But, like, yeah, a lot of the work that I'm doing this week also just concerns the kinds of proposals and how, like, and the periods of proposals to set in place things like budgets and work streams. And this would be another thing, like, we can arrive at social consensus over that we can eventually programatize into a DAO proposal.
Okay. I have one proposal, and it goes backwards a little bit to what we talked about before.
Okay.
I'm wondering if once per month, being that we're all very busy and we have a lot of responsibilities, once per month for rounds feels like a little often to me. A month goes very fast, and anything longer than that, 2 months, 3 months, but not longer than 3 months, I think would be okay. So that's just a thought. Second thought is everything we decide here, we should write down. Because we want to read it over, think about it, read it over some more. Did I miss something? Just like any document or just like any legal agreement, we'll want to have it in writing, just so that we can all at least agree on what we all decided.
Agreed. Is anyone writing this? I mean, I guess I can.
I mean, we record. This is being recorded, and it is posted on the blog, and it's full transcribed, but it's not.
Oh yeah.
It's full transcriptions of each of these sessions.
I guess
AI transcription, like getting the main points and topics of it, that will be like solve this problem, I believe.
Yeah. Especially, yeah, if we have it recorded and we can pass it through something that does transcription, that would be awesome.
Yeah, transcription and summarization. I think AI can handle that now.
Yeah.
I have a proposal too. If you can go back to these departments about that you. Is there any way that we can? I assume this is just an example of what it is, right? But for example, can we get some kind of a description or responsibilities of the different teams here, right? For example, engineering. What will be engineering doing, right? What are their responsibilities? What are this kind of stuff, so we can better decide. Because, for example, I will speak about my
I second that.
my field somehow, because I feel it as a finance department more than an accounting department, right? It will be accounting, it will be compliance, it will be administrative work, right? It will be forecasting and financial planning. So I don't know if that can be done before the votes somehow. Something short, but that I can know what engineering does, what development does, etc., so we can vote with more information.
Yeah. And so, okay.
Yeah, I think that's very important.
I think that's a great idea. So this, again, that sort of ties into a little bit of the work that I'm doing with the like work stream SOPs and how to like vote and establish a work stream. And so, yeah, I mean, I think I should have a model for that on Thursday. And it's just going to require probably the people who are in charge to fill out those things, like the people who are in charge of each of these departments, and to collaborate on actually putting forward the proposal. But yeah, I mean, like I think that's great. Okay, so what I'm taking away, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that we're not quite ready to go to a vote. We need a little bit more information about what each team is doing and why they're important before, and we need some time to like review that before we can vote on what we think the relative distribution is. So, but can I clarify that I believe we have decided that can we at least say that we've decided these are the 5 teams that we initially want to start with?
Yeah, how do we make a vote and make consensus? I mean, we say like, is it like the student council? Like, I was in like, do we like verbally say?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like so. So what I would say is like constitutional procedure would be a ask for unanimous consent, right? So we would say unanimous consent that these should be the 5 departments, and we don't have everybody. I think Andres is maybe not here. But I think that's it. But like what I would call for unanimous.
I think we are missing marketing. Marketing say something like.
No, marketing is Mike and Alex. Like, I guess we're missing, like, of everyone on the team, basically we're missing Don and Andres. And so, like, we can reach out to them and ask if there's any, like, objections. But, like, if I say, like, okay, I'm calling for unanimous consent, everybody who's here, if there's an objection, then we have to, like, think about voting and whether or not to vote for it. But if nobody objects, then that is passed by unanimous consent.
Okay, do we get the gavel? What's like?
Yeah, exactly. I consider that passed. We can reach out to Dawn and Andres individually and just ask them if they're okay with these being the teams without having decided on a relative distribution. But yeah, okay. So let's call that.
Just ask for objections. If there's no objections, then it's unanimous.
Do I hear any objections? Is that what we say?
I think
a couple of things to decide. So we need to decide on what the teams are. That's what we're doing. We need to decide what the initial allocations will be. We need to decide how often the vote will be to change those allocations.
Yep.
So this is the circle of circles.
Well, I think
how often will the circle of circles run?
That's why Bo's trying to confirm the first of those. Yeah, I think we're trying to just confirm the first of that list.
Yeah.
And so it's like, so first, how often? to change the long circles. I do want to circle back to this soon. Because I think that there's a difference. So on this, like how often to change the distribution, I think there's a difference between how we set the initial distribution and how we change the initial distribution. Like setting is harder than changing. Changing has a proposal type and like would be forwarded by someone who says like, I think this is wrong. I think we should change it to this, right? Whereas like setting the initial state, right, is a little bit harder. So to that point. But before I move on, John, is there anything I'm missing? So we're sort of decided in consensus on just number of teams pending.
I just have a question. I'm sorry for making so much. Where would HR fall in this organization?
Good question.
HR matters. Where will it fall?
I think it falls in biz dev or governance right now because we don't have a specific person who's dedicated to HR. But I think we would that would be an example of we would add a team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if we hired an HR person to specifically do that job, we would be like, okay, we're adding a team with a budget to HR. We're giving them some distribution. But right now, it's like HR is basically governance, right? HR is much to the consternation of everybody involved in the governance process, right? Like that, it's just mostly what we concern ourselves with talking and debating.
Okay.
But good question, and I think that, I think that maybe, that it's a good sort of thing.
I'm asking because HR is super cross-sectional, right? You have the legal part of the agreement. You have the invoices that we receive and the payments that you do every month. Then you have internal problems between team members, right? So that's why I was not able to locate it into that section to be.
I kind of would lump. I don't know. I personally vote to put in governance personally, but it's true. It doesn't really fit because it kind of you can also put it in management if it was
governance.
Yeah, I mean, I'd put HR and management.
Called governance, HR and governance.
I mean, it's a good point though, but I don't think if it's finance or legal. I think it's governance out of these 5. I don't think we make another bucket for HR personally. I mean, yeah.
I think we could eventually, right? But I also don't know. I mean, a DAO might be weird about HR because a lot of what we're doing, like I do think for us it fits in governance, right? Although I don't think, because it's like, and I think that what an HR department is made up of is just split into a bunch of different places. Because when we think about like disputes, I mean, like even disputes and harassment and everything like that, I do think a lot of it falls to ultimately governance in a DAO, right? There's not really a good idea of like a team there. I don't know. It's an interesting question. I certainly haven't given it enough thought. Okay. So in terms of the teams, I think among us, does that like sort of answer the question enough, David?
No more questions. Sorry.
Okay. No, I mean, I just mean that, like, so can we say these are the 5 departments or at least, like, come to some, like, sort of soft consensus over it? Objections heard. Okay, cool. So then, like, the next step is to reach out directly to Don and Andres, make sure that they don't object to this idea of those being the teams. And then we need to figure out, like, okay, how do we arrive at that initial state? And I would say, something like this. This is a constant sum survey that can be distributed to everybody on the team, and we can take a look at what the results are. And that is, can we agree that would be a good way to conduct that step? All the while understanding that before we do that, we really need to have a description and responsibilities of the teams. Everybody needs to do that so they can make an informed decision. But once we do that, can we agree that this might be a good way to arrive at that initial state?
Yep.
Yes.
How would this vote work? It would just be like a popular vote? Each person would be able to vote? What are the mechanics of the vote? How can we come to numbers, in other words?
So in this, I believe it just displays an average. of all the like respondent questions. So to take a preview, right? And without giving anything away, I'm just gonna give 20 to each, which is not how I would allocate it, but just for argument's sake. And then, yeah, I added this one so that like as like very simple, very stupid civil resistance.
Wouldn't people just like tend to vote their own team?
I mean, yeah. So David brought this same thing up. I think that there are two answers to this, right? The first is I could construct the survey so that it asks you like what team you are primarily on, and then you can only award it to others in the like sort of coordinate fashion. Alternatively, I think that it might be fine for us, like, I think when we're talking about like large numbers of people we don't trust, that is maybe a good way to like philosophically approach a problem like this. But I am fine, I know personally, and maybe not everybody is, but like I am fine personally saying like I trust people to the small team that we have, which we're talking about like maybe 7 to 9 people making this vote. I trust that team to correctly prioritize what needs to be done, and especially after like looking over like what is the responsibilities of any particular team and what do they do, why are they necessary, right? Like I think people are gonna I believe that everybody here is smart enough to like prioritize the team distributions according to what is necessary.
So
that would be my
7 to 9 people. 7 to 9 people will be on the vote. What if? Yeah. Okay. So this is for a small group that we all trust. What if we just did it like Coordinate, but we didn't actually use Coordinate, but we did it so that each team has, let's say, each team has like 100 give to allocate to other teams, only to other teams, and then we just trust people to do it that way. You know what I mean, like it could be done by probably text message or something like that. We emulate Coordinate. It's kind of a neat model where you cannot allocate to yourself. It solves a problem.
Yeah, I mean,
I think.
So if we had, then it would be 5 votes, right? And I guess like the teams could collaborate on like what they thought the vote should be. Like teams could get together. But of course, also the teams are small, and just like decide amongst themselves how much should we give to BizDev, like that. It wouldn't be it doesn't solve the problem for going forward as the organization grows, just for right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, I think the hardest problem is setting the initial state, right? Because the going forward problem is an easier one. That's like a single person can make a proposal for what they think the distribution should be, and then that just goes to a vote, right? It's just like
periodic.
Yeah.
Or we could do it periodically, like the way that we do for Coordinate.
Right. And
yeah, because as people's... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
What I'm going to say, like as people's contribution to the project changes from period to period, so teams' contributions overall to the project might also vary from period to period.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, especially when, like, now in this early stage where engineering is very, very important. But hopefully we come to a place where like engineering enters maintenance mode, right? And maybe that changes the relative distribution. I mean, like maybe the other thing to remember is like, I think one thing that we haven't really gotten to yet, but is touched on by this discussion, I think, is that like, one thing to remember is that Coordinate is sort of a system for like post token, but I think the landscape changes drastically pre-token and post-token, right? The urgency around getting this done now is because we're making contract agreements where people want to understand like what amount of token are they getting, right? And so like that's why these like relative weights and this discussion in particular matters. Whereas like post-token, that's what we use. Like this, we're figuring out how to set the rules of the game, right, in the long term. Like how a treasury distributes its money is directly related to like how we distribute tokens in this period. But anyway, all that long aside, where were we?
So we've confirmed the 5 teams, I believe, and we were discussing about the voting system to decide the weightedness, showingness, and then I think a few people were giving feedback on modifications to your proposed survey tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I do somewhat agree,
Okay.
but I feel like there's only 7 or 8 of us, and I mean, if we're really gonna like manipulate the system that much, I don't know. I think for now we don't need to get that extensive to not let people vote for their own team or something like this.
Yeah, I think it feels more comfortable to not be able to vote for yourself. But I mean, there's like some it takes a lot of like the pressure away.
I'm trying to think of the like it makes sense if it's teams that arrive at consensus over what they think their relative distribution should be to other teams. Also presents the problem of like, I mean, I guess it's just a meeting, right, where everybody gets together and decides the relative distribution. But yeah, because we can't do it on an individual basis. Because then I'm trying to think through the math of it, of like what. Anyway, I don't think anybody's proposing we do it on that, like do it that way on an individual basis. Because there's also a lot of team crossover. Yeah, okay, so maybe that's like the assignment is like everybody's got to get together before next Tuesday. Everybody's got to get together with their team, or if they're like a single team, and produce 3 things, or like 3 things: a description of the team, the proposed responsibilities of the team, and then what they think the relative token distribution should be to other teams.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Oh, how about making a spreadsheet with all us community members and the team we're on, and then columns where we vote on the relative allocation for the other teams? We could easily see that we're not voting for our team, which is a rule I like too.
I'm sorry. What's the proposal? To use Excel to
Just
Google
a
Sheets, I would
spreadsheet.
imagine?
Yeah, just a spreadsheet on Drive Space or whatever, where we list in rows the individual community members, right? And the other column next to each individual would be his team, what team he's on. And then the other 5 columns would be the votes on the allocation of tokens, which do not include the column for his team.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I can do that template for you.
Yeah, it's very simple, and then we'd see how we aggregate that.
Yes, I can. I will prepare it tomorrow if you guys don't mind. I will be traveling today, and tomorrow I can prepare that template for you and share it on the general or on governance.
I think the problem with that is, one is team overlap. So like I'm on the governance and biz dev team, right? And so like if I'm individual, like I think they should be individual meetings with each team, right? Where they like arrive at consensus over this, right? So like the engineering team has their own meeting where they come to consensus over, because the teams also have to decide description and responsibilities. So like the teams need to come to consensus about that, and then also what they think as a team should be the relative distribution to others. That way, like I can be in the biz dev meeting where we do this, and then I can also be in the governance meeting where we do this. And because if we do it on that like individual basis, then because there's a bunch of people, like John would be on the engineering team and the governance team. Maybe the governance one is the only one with like wild overlap. I don't know. What do you guys think?
It's true that if we do it individually, our votes as individuals will have less weight the bigger the team is, right? So if there are 10 people on development and just 1 in finance, my opinion will be much stronger, right, than an individual opinion of the development department, right? So my point here would be like initially each of the teams should have like 20% of, or sorry, 20% of 13 point whatever points, right? So what I mean is, should the departments have the same weight at the beginning, right? Or should that be based on the number of team members, or I don't know. It's not obvious for me.
Guys, can I say that although I like John's proposal for not being able to vote on yourself, that could also create problems, because if we have to vote on other teams, like for example, very large number of teams, very large teams like engineering and so forth, they could give disproportionate amounts of tokens to teams that are really not that important. I mean, so that's the other
Yeah,
side.
but
of the coin.
I thought we were having one vote, one opinion per team. So not every
Well-
member of engineering team votes
Well, then
on the
in that
allocations,
case-
but just
In that case, maybe you should take into account what David just said about weighing each team based on the number of people on that team. Weighing each team's vote based on the number of people in that team.
I'm a little confused.
Okay, suppose, I don't know, engineering has 5 people, just suppose. And David is finance, he's one person, right? So if that were the only 2 teams, there's 6 people in all. And there's like 1/6, David's team would be weighed by 1/6, and engineering would be weighed 5/6. Does that make any sense?
I think what you're saying is that, like, in that case, engineering would have to give 100% to finance, and finance would have to give 100% to engineering. But the 100% would be, I mean, it would be 50-50. The 50% would be shared by 6 people in engineering, but only shared by 1 person in finance. Is that correct?
Well,
No, I think.
go ahead, Bo.
Well, I just think it's like what David's concern is that like if we weight it, and tell me if I'm wrong, David, but like if we have it so that each department is submitting one number, then each department has the same weight, and so David's vote matters a lot more than Garo's vote, for instance.
Exactly. And the other way around, right?
Right.
If we voted based on the number of members, right, then my vote becomes insignificant because I'm 1 versus, I don't know, 10 or 8, right? So I'm not giving a solution, I'm just raising a concern or a warning
I'm not sure
on that. I don't
if I
have the
see
right
it as a
answer.
problem, though. Because you, as the single person department, you are that department.
Exactly.
And so you get the whole vote, you get the entire say within that department of how that department votes.
Exactly.
In engineering team, with several people, they have to come to some agreement about that. But how they come to that agreement is like, it's entirely up to them. Like, they could all just say like, hey, you, 1 person in our department, you make the decision. We trust you to make the decision. Or they could have some kind of vote, or however they want to do it.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't see why it's a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, but on the example you proposed, John, supposing we have those 2 teams again, the engineering and the finance team only, right? And engineering can only vote on finance, and finance can only vote on engineering.
Yeah,
So
that
if
is a problem.
so if the votes are equal, if the votes have equal power or equal weight, then you'd have a 50-50 distribution, which may or may not be ideal. But I mean, you'd constrain it
And
to
it
that.
wouldn't be. If there's only 2 teams, that's the problem.
And it
If there's
wouldn't
3
be,
teams,
right?
that problem. Yeah, if there's 3 teams, the problem is mitigated. If there's 4, it's further mitigated. And if there's 5, I have to just check to see if that's
Exactly.
if that comes to be a problem at all. I'm not sure.
I think
But
it
the problem
depends
might
on.
be here.
So I just I think that the only thing is how fair we want to be, right? If I want to be if I just look for my interest, right? I want all the departments to have the same weight, right? Because I will decide for 1/5 of the company,
Yeah, that's it.
right? and maybe that's not fair. But it's also not fair.
There's some pressure
That-
on you. Yeah.
Exactly, and not because of the pressure. It's because of if I'm egoistic, I can just think of me instead of the benefit of the whole company, right? And which is not the case. And the other way around, it's then my department, as it's just one person, becomes insignificant in the totality of the company. So I'm not really sure what is the right approach. I needed to give it a thought, to be honest.
Yeah, it's worth thinking about. I will give that some thought as well. My first instinct is that that type of problem is inherent in any system that we choose where the votes are transparent. And that's just not avoidable if the votes are transparent. Maybe that problem goes away if the voting is secret. Although that might introduce other problems, I'm not sure. I think you're right in saying that it needs some thought. I need to give it a little thought as well.
I'm not sure how
It's hard to find
transparency
time to
would.
think about more things.
Yeah, I'm not sure how transparency would mitigate the problem.
No, I'm saying like lack of transparency might mitigate that problem, but introduce other problems, possibly. What David is
Yeah.
saying is that there's like a social pressure to vote a certain way, and that if he's only thinking about his own benefit, then he would vote equally for all departments, because he knows that they also are going to vote on his department. So,
Yeah, there's some sort of game theory
yeah,
there, but
social pressure.
I would be inclined to weigh each team based on the number of members, but at the same time, also tend towards.
I wouldn't object to.
Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, okay. So I guess here's another way to do it. I think these are both fair ways to do it. We could do it by vote, like in the way that we described, either by secret ballot or open, transparent ballot. Or we could just start everybody off on equal footing, where every team is weighted by the number of members, and let it evolve by, I don't know, I feel like then we would still need some kind of voting to let it vary from that.
On my side, I was just thinking, and again, I came to the conclusion I did more thinking, because I was thinking, okay, if we do that each department can vote to the other departments, and the vote of each department has the same weight, right? And the persons in that department cannot vote themselves, then the problem is solved. But actually, it's not, because my vote, right, as an individual, will become super important against the vote of an individual that is in a larger team. So that's not a solution to it.
Yeah, maybe it's the lesser of the evils, though. If you are acting as a department and you get all the vote of that department, it does make your individual vote more powerful than other individuals, but
Exactly.
it preserves the sanctity of the department, which maybe, while not perfect, is the lesser of two evils, possibly. Not saying that it is, but it's a possibility.
Yeah, but it relies on assuming that we act faithful and as a professional and not as an egoistic individual.
Yeah, and again, as a small group, we all trust each other, and there's social pressure on all of us as well to act fairly and to not be crazy or insane, and just to act as we do in social situations.
Exactly.
Reasonable individuals. So as a small group, maybe the problem is not. Maybe the problem just grows as the team grows, and then needs to be solved in a more rigorous way.
Yes, because it's not. Maybe we are getting out of topic, but this is not about how faithful you are actually. It's about the perception of the other teams about you being faithful, right? Imagine Andres. Andres is in Liga, right? I give Andres 30% of my vote, right? And that and others consider, okay, Andres is just one person. He just does, I don't know, the agreements between the company and the consultants, right? This is not fair. Maybe they talk to each other to give them more power in the company. which is actually not true, but you cannot control possession of others, right? But maybe I'm getting too far away, so.
I mean, we're not going to, if we try to come up with a perfect system, we will never come up with anything because we won't come up with a perfect system ever.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I think personally, almost any system that has basic fairness at this level would be fine, just because we all know each other and there's few of us. The challenge comes as the group grows and keeping it fair and systematic. Although, again, some of the problems also disappear as the group grows because things like the 50-50 problem of two groups goes away. And some of the issues where there's like a one-person department would also presumably go away as the team grows. So, I don't know. I'm all for thinking about it more, but I'm pretty flexible about, as long as we choose a system that has basic fairness built in, I'm not too particular about the details at this point.
Yeah, as I see it, totally agree. I think we should arrive at a decision hopefully by next Tuesday. But as I see it, and please, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that there are basically two proposed paths. One is that every person votes for every team, and then we arrive at like sort of an average of that, and then we just trust that, people are not, we have the social trust that people, because I will say, it's like, if we assume the most like base and like selfish motives of everyone else, like I think it's a good basis for like when we're talking, obviously we wouldn't be here if we didn't think like that most of the time because like crypto, but I think in terms of like thinking about the success of the company, right, like wanting to take more, right, at the expense of maybe a good functioning company and setting correct priorities is like more, because like really it's like, is the token successful? Well, it depends on whether or not we're able to make good decisions and allocate resources prudently. So anyway, so that's one path. The second path, which I actually really like, is the idea that teams arrive at consensus and submit their team's weighting only for other teams. And so then like teams individually can decide whatever process they want for arriving at that final number. We just need to take the average for the teams and not weighting them on the basis of, and I guess we could either do that or weight that on the basis of the size of the team, either weighted or unweighted. I'll add that.
Okay, so to recap, Bo, you're proposing that the first and most simple solution is that each community member votes on all the teams, can vote on any teams, regardless of whether they belong to that team or not. Mm-hmm. I like that solution because, I mean, it's like a constituent assembly. We're all just voting, each of us.
Also, it's easy enough we could just do both, right? Like, we could do both and see what the numbers look like. But either way, so yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you going to say?
Yeah, well, the other solution is that each team submit a team vote, right? Mm. And then you have the question of how much does each team weigh? And that's what David was talking about. He's talking about one person teams versus many people teams. So then you would have to take into account the weight of each team's votes.
The number of people.
And I wrote something on the chat about that as a mechanism for deciding the initial team votes weight. It's just a mixture between the uniform distribution and the distribution based on the number of members of the team.
I would prefer to not be able to vote for my own team. I think it just feels more comfortable. I don't know if other people feel that way.
Yeah, I like it.
It's less stressful.
Yeah, I think so.
It doesn't still rule out the individual vote. You could just say you can vote on every team except your own team.
Just a twist on this. We can do the mixture that he said, but without voting each other's team, our own team, meaning do the point A and point B, right, and then average 50-50 without the possibility of voting ourselves, right? Then you will have a 50% representation of the teams themselves, and then a 50% representation of the individuals of the company. 50 or whatever we consider, but that might be a solution. So my vote is not super important at 100%, and the vote of larger teams are valued the same of a small group.
Guys, did we just invent bicameral governance? So like a House and a Senate functionally, right? Like we have a House where everybody votes, and then we have a Senate that's representative of each team. Man,
Yes. So
This is probably what it felt like at the Continental Congress.
yeah.
You know,
yeah,
it's probably similar vibe. That was the blockchain of the old times.
It really was, yeah. Go give our love to King Louis the 16th in that revolutionary spirit, David.
yeah.
Those guys were the crypto bros on that day.
Yeah, but they could have guessed.
All right.
That,
We could
you
have,
say you like their hats?
I mean that they also chopped some heads.
that's what I'm
They
saying.
also had cool hats.
They also chopped some
I thought you
heads.
said you
Yeah,
liked
you can
their
go. Yeah.
Dog with cat. Dog with hat.
Dog with hat. Yeah, exactly. We've come full circle. Okay, we were supposed to. So to summarize everything, things we need to do. We've sort of decided on teams. I need to reach out to Andres and Don to make sure that they don't object to that team composition. Teams need to organize a meeting to get together and settle on their. This is task number one. They need to get together to settle on a description and responsibilities for their teams. So that's something that every team needs to do before Tuesday. Again, I will write this up and send it out to the relevant team leads. And then because it's also going to go in, there's some other governance stuff that's going to be going on in parallel with that. Then next Tuesday, let's give it some time to think. Maybe post in the Chatting Governance DAO channel for evolving thoughts on these voting systems. If we want to continue this conversation there, but by next Tuesday we need to arrive again. We should have the descriptions and responsibilities of the teams, and so we need to decide on the system by which we vote for the relative distribution of those teams, and then we just need to enact that. Simply enact that, and then get ready for the round to start on June 1st. And I mean, I guess there's some other questions that are still up in the air, like how long do those circles? And are they 1 month? Are they 3 months? This is a decision that needs to be decided. This I wanted to bring up, but is not something we need to decide. We are sort of at the end of everything. But the last thing I would like to try and settle on is, can we set a date for our Kumbaya session, where we talk about what we've been doing and what we contributed between the period of January 27th and now. Yes? No?
Any time is fine for me. Yeah, we can set a date. Any time is fine.
Can we do Friday evening? Does Friday evening work with someone? I think you're on BizDev, Jose. I'm not sure, but I think I think you fall in the BizDev category.
Yeah, I would say so too.
And so we'll organize a BizDev meeting. But yeah, if everybody can get together and we could have a beer Friday afternoon or Friday evening, and take an hour and a half, talk about just remind ourselves what we've been doing, so that we can then go through the process of entering that into our activity. Oh, would you look at that? Alex already has. And then we can go through what it looks like to vote. But again, everybody here is invited to that meeting. I would say Friday, what time works? 5 p.m. high time? Really early for Jose. Okay, but yeah, that's noon for us. I think that's early for Jose.
Yeah, maybe Jose, I think this Friday, right? Yeah, so in a few days.
Yeah.
Adios, gracias.
Okay.
We can do 1 hour later, right?
So
I think 6 is 7 in
6? Okay.
I think 6 works, right, Jose, if I remember right? Yep, okay.
Yes, correct. 6. Yeah. I'll
No.
try to be there.
But I think 6 is our 5 is your 6, so I think our 6 is your 7, which is better.
Oh, actually, I believe 6 a.m. would be better, because I gotta take the kids to school and then the boy to his therapy and stuff. So I'll try to squeeze it in there.
So it's 10 a.m. for you now, right?
It's 10 a.m. here. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So then 5 p.m. Thailand is 6 p.m. So 5 p.m. Thailand Friday. Well,
Yeah, that works. That works.
Okay. Then I will send out, or actually, Mike, would you mind sending out a Google Calendar invite? I just don't
Yep.
know that I have everybody
yeah.
contact. Okay.
Even I'm kind of trying
Perfect. And then
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I will write up a quick summary, and then Mike, let's talk about how to write up get the AI summary of the whole meeting.
Yeah. I mean, the transcriptions are there and the audio, but work on it for this next one.
Oh, if that's true, then just link it to me and I'll do it.
Okay. Okay. It takes time to get, I'll get you the recording of this one then.
Okay. Unless you want to do it. Yeah, we can figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Whatever time is decided can be added to the community calendar, please.
Say it one more time, David. Oh, you want to add this to
I
the...
say
It was
that
added to the community calendar.
So yeah, I don't know if everybody knows, we have a Loadpipe community Google Calendar, so anybody in the world can subscribe and see what's on there. Will we put this on there then? Or are we gonna do this in the Discord, Bo, or is this private?
I think this one is now town hall because it's sort of like the first one was it was really limited because it was just everybody who had done pre-Hamza work. It was really a lot of that was done before we had even made the Discord. But now I feel like it probably could be done in the town hall.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
I'll put it on that
I would
calendar.
just mention that to not miss any meeting, right? Just
Okay.
a place where we can see the meetings we have as a team.
Yeah.
To not miss any of them.
Okay. I will put it on that calendar then, as well as send invites to as many people as I could. Okay.
All right.
Think we're good?
I think so. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day or night.
Thank you.
Okay.
See you guys tomorrow.
See ya.
See you later.
Bye.